Welcome to the surprise day in the Do Space After School Club. If you are joining us on Facebook and want to ask questions, you're welcome to hop into Zoom and join us in Zoom. But we're going to be drawing animals today. So last week, we looked at how to do animal studies. So we looked at moose, and we also looked at bunny. But before we start drawing again, remember we always got to do some warm-ups. So we're just going to get our hands busy, get our heads busy, thinking about how to draw things. Hold my pencil kind of back out. I'm going to draw some nice big circles. And if you don't have a tablet, that's fine. You don't need a tablet. You could be doing this on paper or a whiteboard, whatever you have. Maybe not your walls unless you ask your parents. Let's switch to my pencil. There we go. Let's get some lines going. Start thinking about lines. Nice big movements with our arms. If you've been following along with us for the last couple of weeks, you know that just about anything can be drawn if we know how to draw the shapes that lay underneath it. So get our brains going, get our arms working. Haven't done a lot of drawing today. So got to get my hands all warmed up, get my shoulder all warmed up. Start thinking about animals. Alrighty. So, first week we learned how to draw a bunny. Second week we looked at how to draw a moose. Today we're going to start combining them together. And we're going to make a jackalope. Maybe not with moose antlers. The moose antlers we did last week were awfully big, so we may just do deer antlers instead. And one of the things that I want to look at a lot of times when I'm looking at how to draw an animal is I look at their skeleton to see how their bones work. Because by looking at how their bones work, I can figure out how to actually draw them. So I'm just closing some windows on my computer. There we go. And I'm going to switch to my computer screen here in a second. Let's see if we can find a rabbit skeleton in Google Image. Remember, if you're going to be on Google Image and you don't know if it's okay, always ask your adult. Don't want you doing anything that would get you in trouble. There we go. All right. So this is what a rabbit skeleton looks like. This is pretty cool. So let's see if we can find a good picture here and get a nice big picture. Zoom that in. That's as much as we can zoom it in. All right, so we know by looking at this that first of all, this is interesting. Rabbits have a longer tail than I thought. Because, you know, rabbits just have a little cottontail, but apparently they have more bones. And then their hips are right here, and they go out to rather long knees. Their back legs are rather long. And then they've got really long feet, and then they've got little toes. And this is their shoulder right here. And this is kind of, this is their shoulder blade. This is their shoulder. They've got really short upper arms, then go down to really big, long forearms. This is their wrist bones right here, and this is their fingers. So it looks like rabbits sort of walk on kind of this end of their fingers. They walk like this, kind of like that, which is kind of interesting because that helps us know how to draw them. Let's look. Let's see if we can find. Let's look at the rabbit skull. So this is their eye socket. And this little hole right here, actually this little hole right there is where their ears are. Right there is where their ears are. This is their mouth and this is their jaw. So now that we've done some examining, let's get some drawing done. So let's look at how to draw a rabbit skeleton. Let's look at the skull part. Because we got to figure out where the best spot is to attach some antlers. All right. There we go. So I'm pulling up on my computer a picture of a rabbit skull. And let's look at how to draw that. So rabbit skull from a straight on view. We're going to start by drawing, I'm going to switch to red here so we can all see it. I'm going to draw a big circle. We're going to start filling it in from there. So I'll start with a big circle, and then I'm going to draw a smaller circle that kind of represents its nose. And then it has kind of its eye ridges. Has very big eye sockets. So it kind of has eye ridges that go out kind of on the side of its head like this, so like that. And then it's got a cheekbone that kind of comes in like this. And it's got its jawbone kind of comes in like that. It's got little teeth right here. This is its cutout for its nose. Part of drawing is just figuring out all the placement for where all of the bones go. So I'm literally looking at a photo of a skull. There's not quite that much room. Ridges are kind of up like that. So I'm looking at the photo and just kind of roughing in just with quick sketchy marks, not very hard. When we're starting out, we want to draw pretty lightly so that we can go over it later. Kind of where all of the pieces are. Just figuring out nice sketchy marks. It doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be clean, because right now we're just figuring out how it all goes together. I think I drew his head a little too wide. So it's kind of slimming down just a tiny bit. All right. This doesn't have to be perfect. We're doing studies to figure out how we're going to construct our regular jackalope. And in this study, we're trying to figure out maybe where we should attach the antlers in its head. And it looks like there's only a really small space right here and sort of right here where those antlers are going to fit, because this is the ridge of his eyes. The ridge of his eyes kind of go like this. This is the back of his head. This is his little cheekbones right here. Same thing over here. And there's another ridge that kind of goes down like this, sort of a center ridge. So it really just, it looks like the best place sort of the best place to attach his antlers are going to be right here. And that tells me that those are going to be some pretty small antlers because the base of it is not going to be very big. So I'm going to make this smaller so we can keep that in mind as we're drawing. Oop, reset. That is one of the nice things about doing things digitally is that you can always undo it. But if you do it traditionally and you make a mistake, that's fine too. You just draw it again. All right. So we got our study of the rabbit skull in mind. And from there, we're going to do a study of an antler. And if you watched the one last week, remember we pulled up antlers in our Google image search. Let's do deer antlers. And we added minus, no space, and then hunting, because we didn't want any hunting photos. And that got us pictures of antlers. So the interesting thing about how deer antlers attach to deer's heads is that they kind of go like this. The deer skull kind of goes like this. Deer skull's like that. And then the antlers come off like that. So it seems like this would be a pretty good place. Deer skull is like this. And this is the deer's eyes. Seems like the spot that we marked on the rabbit skull will be a pretty good place to put those antlers. So we're just gonna move this over like this. So we have a good idea. All right. Well, that's rude. Just a second here. I want to take care of something. There we go. All right. So let's talk about how we're going to draw our bunny, our jackalope. So jackalopes are mythical creatures. I don't know if they're mythical. I think they may just be folklore. Yeah, North American folklore. Let's go to Wikipedia. So a jackalope is a mythical animal of North American folklore described as a jackrabbit with antelope horns. So let's get our jackalope going. First of all, we need to draw a bunny. And we're going to start with finding a good picture of a bunny. Just use a reference. So I've pulled up a picture of a bunny on my screen. I'm starting with drawing a circle for its head. It's a little big. Let's undo that and draw a smaller circle. Okay, there we go. So let's draw the full bunny. Drawing a circle for its chest, and then it's got another circle kind of right here that is his back leg, and he has sort of a half moon circle right here, and he has a couple more half moon circles right here for his paws, half moon for his other paw, and then he's actually got sort of more of a rounded triangle shape for his little head. That's not quite the right spot for that, so we're just going to erase that. Try it again. In the picture I'm looking at, his head is more right here. So when you're trying to figure out how to draw things, look for references on how you can place it. So I'm looking at this photo. I'm going to switch to the photo right quick. So that's the photo I'm using. And I can see from this photo that the reason my head was wrong was because I was drawing his outside, this side of the head, way out here instead of straight down the middle. So I'm using this kind of outer circle right here as a way to line up my head. So let's stop sharing that. Go back to sharing my iPad screen. All right. So now let's get this in sort of the right place. It has sort of a rounded here. That kind of goes down like this. That's better. And then he kind of has, so I'm going to use a line to line things up, and he's kind of, the middle of his head is sort of right here, and his nose kind of bisects that line. So his nose is going to be right about here. So we've got this, like this, this, and then we've got a line that kind of comes out. Bunnies intentionally make themselves small, hopes that you don't notice them, especially wild ones. They get really small and really still and hope very much that you don't notice them. Oh, I think this needs to move over just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit here as well. And we're going to draw some lines here, kind of a rectangle shape. Lines here. Then we need his little bunny ears. So it's like this. And then that one kind of goes like that. All right, so we got a basic shape for a rabbit. Maybe not quite such a narrow head. Let's round that out a little bit more. There we go. That gives us our basic shape. And let's get his eye in. His eye goes right there. His little nose goes right there. His little mouth kind of goes up like that. So it goes like that, just like that. Bunny kind of looks like he's disapproving at us. All right, so there is our sketch of our rabbit. Now I've drawn him really, really big. If you've drawn them really, really big on your paper, you know what I do when I do that and I'm drawing traditionally? I just add more paper to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can always just tape more paper onto your paper. Because I'm drawing him digitally, I can just make him smaller. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I've got our bunny started. And now I got to figure out where to add some antlers. And remember we talked about it, we're going to add antlers right here and right here, which on our bunny, it'd be about here and about here. So I'm going to pick a different color because sometimes it helps if I'm working in one color to switch to a different color. I like this nice purple color. And I'm going to search for, Wikipedia actually said antelope horns, which I had not looked up. So we're going to look at antelope horns right quick. And with antelopes, the same as with deer, I'm going to put minus hunting just because I don't really want to see any dead animals. Sometimes you have to be careful with internet searches because you see things that you don't particularly want to see. So I'm getting a lot of African antelope. So I wonder, I know there's antelopes in Nebraska. Let's try Nebraska. Antelope. There we go. Oh no, I don't want that. Pronghorn, that's what they're called. So what I'm gonna do is switch and do pronghorn antelope and then minus hunting. Here we go. Oh, they've got interesting horns. See if we can find a good picture of them. There we go. All right, I'm going to share this with you so you can see what I'm looking at. All right, so this is what a pronghorn antelope looks like. They've kind of got a really interesting horns, almost kind of looks like a unicorn horn. So they've got this horn right here, and then this kind of curls up, and this kind of curls up like this. So let's draw that because that's kind of fun. Right, switch back to our iPad here. All right. So an antelope horn looks like this. It's got kind of a nice thick rectangle on the bottom, and then it's got kind of a curve that goes up like this. And then it's got like a little spiky bit like that. So that's a lot of fun. Well, let's try and put that on our bunny. So I'm going to start by drawing a little circle because I don't want as thick and big as our antelope. 'Cause, I mean, our bunny's got a pretty small head. So let's try our nice big thick base here. Nice big kind of thick rectangle. And then from the picture, it looks like our antelope horn, the curve goes up over the head. So we'll curve that up over the head like that. And then kind of curve this like this. Do the same thing over on the other side. So here's the thing about creating your own creatures. You get to do whatever you want, especially if the creature isn't real. You can do whatever you want. And I really don't like the way these two curve into each other like that. So I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I'm going to erase it. And let's figure out maybe a different way to have them curve. Maybe if we curve them up like this a little bit. And maybe we thin them out just a tiny bit. Well, not sure I like that either. This is the part where you really get to make your critter your own, is by figuring out the part you like and the part that looks good, and then doing that. Because there's no right answer when you're creating your own critters. It's just what looks good to you, what looks funny, what looks cool, what looks awesome, just whatever you're trying to do with your critter. That's the important part. I like that. So now you're thinking, well, that's a really good sketch, but how do you do something that's completely cleaned up and done? Maybe you're thinking about comics and inking and things like that. Well, now that we've got our sketch, we can start adding all of our details. And if you're doing this digitally and you have a program that can do it like Procreate, what I do is I'm going to merge these two layers together. Just pinched my fingers to merge them together. And I'm gonna drop the opacity. And if you have Photoshop or a program similar to that, this is pretty much how you do this in Photoshop as well. So now it's nice and light and I can draw over it. If you're doing this on traditional media, what you might want to have is some tracing paper so you can transfer your design onto a clean sheet of paper. Or you might pull out another sheet of paper and go to a really bright and sunny window and carefully, lightly trace your design onto a new clean sheet of paper. Once you've done that, let's switch to black here. You're going to get out an ink pen. It can be any ink pen. I have a good friend who draws comics in a ballpoint pen. It's really cool. So just a plain old Bic ballpoint pen. If you've got markers, like Copic markers, that's really good. If you got brush and ink, that's fine. If you've just got pencil, that's fine too. So I'm going to switch. I have brushes and ink pens that I really like loaded on my iPad, and that's usually what I use. And then we just need to decide how we're going to draw things. So especially right here, this bit right here, where the ear and the horn overlap. What I need to decide is the ear in front of the horn or is the horn in front of the ear? So I might draw it two ways and see what it looks like. So I think the ear is actually going to come up in front of the horn. So let's go ahead and try this out. Oops, wrong layer. Let's get on our new layer. So I'm going to draw it like that. And inking takes practice. And part of it is figuring out what needs to be highlighted with your inking. See, I'm not drawing every single line. Here I'm drawing fur. And sometimes I'll go and I'll turn off this layer and see what it looks like, see if it's okay. And the thing about inking, especially if you're wanting to do it for comics or manga or something like that, is that you can't just trace the lines that you're drawing. You have to actually ink and make decisions with your ink. And that's going to take some practice, some dedication. Kind of looks like a very angry fluffy bunny. Slightly disapproving. Just turn that off and see what we're looking like. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Just a matter of finding your lines. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. You can do this again if you're doing traditional. Doing things over and over when you're working on art really is how you learn how to do them. And you know what? If there's professionals that you follow on social media and you really love their work, just remember that everything that they're sharing with you is not everything that they're doing. A lot of professionals make mistakes still too. Some texture in here. A little bit of fur going. And if you're working digitally, you can zoom in on things, but don't zoom in too much. Sometimes when you're working digitally, you have a habit of really getting fixated on details that when you zoom out into the whole image, you just don't notice. So zoom in some, but don't zoom in all the way so that you're not fixating on details that you don't necessarily need to be worried about. Nice fuzzy bunny. Nice fuzzy belly. I don't like that line. And if you're inking traditionally and you have whiteout at home, which is white fluid that you can correct your mistakes with, if you're working with ink, that's fine. Use that. I draw comics and use whiteout quite a bit when I make mistakes in inking. It happens. I know a lot of pros who do. You see me there while I'm talking, undo a line and redo it because I didn't like the way it was coming. Just like that. I don't like that line. This little fuzzy tail will be There we go. Turn that off. You know what? He looks like he needs fangs. I don't think jackalopes have fangs, but this bunny looks like he needs some fangs. Just little ones. There we go. Oh, I forgot his other ear. That happens sometimes. We can barely see his other ear because it would be his ear would be behind, but let's give an impression that he's got another ear. There we go. Just that one line. All right, there we have it. We got a jackalope. All right, next week we're gonna look at some more critter combinations, look at griffins, look at some other fun stuff, hippogriffs, that sort of thing. And if you missed one of our drawings, feel free to look on YouTube. The last couple of weeks will be up on YouTube. And I hope you have a good week. See you later.